He's noticed I've talked about using Mountain Ops supplements as part of my routine. What benefit do you see from using them? If you were to make recommendations for someone getting into them, what would you recommend? Also, what are good resources to learn more about nutrition as it relates to fitness? All right, I saw that you have Mountain Ops here. What do you take from Mountain Ops?
I have the Ammo, the Yeti, and what's the other one?
Magnum.
Magnum.
Yep.
Actually just got them 2 months ago, so I haven't used them very much. I love the Yeti for pre-workouts.
Yeah.
Just a little extra energy, a little vasodilator just to get you moving, get you pumping. I love putting, I haven't done this with the Mountain Ops yet, but I love putting a scoop of protein like in the morning in oatmeal or in yogurt or in to, if I don't have time, if I'm running late, if I don't have time to make eggs, which I try to do every day, but if I don't, I usually put a scoop of that in something that
that's
mixes well in.
That ammo is something to talk about. I mean,
I have put the Magnum, sorry to repeat it, I have put the Magnum in my bulletproof coffee.
Oh.
So take a little scoop of grass-fed butter, some MCT oil, and about a quarter scoop of the Magnum protein in my coffee.
Yeah.
It's really good.
Okay. There you
Ryan
go.
Lampers turned me on to that.
Thanks, Ryan Lampers. Yeah. What's up, Ryan? I don't know if Ryan watches this, but ammo is awesome. Meal replacement. Has zero crap in it. If you read the ingredients, you'll recognize everything in there. There's not like a fake sugar or sweetener that you'll see in almost every protein powder out there. You have to keep it in the refrigerator once you open it. It's just made of whole foods. I can't say enough. That is what sold me on Mountain Ops was their ammo. It's a little bit more expensive, but you get what you pay for than some cheap whey isolate. I do like the Yeti. I will say I'm pretty sensitive to the Yeti. It's pretty potent. I don't take, if I'm going to work out at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, I'm not going to take Yeti because I won't be able to sleep.
I've never done more than a half a scoop.
Yeah, so that stuff, ease into that.
Yeah.
But if you're brand new and you're like, I want to take one thing, I'm going to be lame and tell you to take a multivitamin from anyone, Mountain Ops. But you're probably not getting all the nutrients you need from the food that you eat. Especially, it's really hard to eat really clean and get all those nutrients and fruits and vegetables and phytonutrients. So, as lame as it is, if you're starting to take supplements, put your shirt on first before you put your tie. Everybody wants to get all these cool supplements, but if you're not eating clean or eating really well, just start with a daily multivitamin and then work your way into some other stuff. So, all right, let's move on. He says, all right, this is from Randy Fish. He says, I want to thank you for your Q&A videos. They have gave me some good ideas. I know you've talked about CrossFit a lot. However, at 49 years of age and a hernia surgery, I wonder if that is my best bet. What movements would you suggest for someone starting out? Goal is to be in better shape for elk hunt in 2018. Hopefully a sheep hunt later. So yeah, 49 years young, time's ticking. You ain't getting any younger. Get that sheep hunt. Maybe you're going to draw the tag, or maybe you're going to bite the bullet and go to Canada or Mexico or Alaska. But 49 is not old. No.
You don't need to do Olympic type weights either. I mean, you can do body weights. You can do it in your living room. Just mobility. Mobility is a big one. Stepping over logs. I mean, you don't want to twist an ankle or.
Yeah, I like that. I mean, he went right towards what the good stuff is. Is like, there's so many great mobility resources out there. Look up mobilitywod.com. You can look up ROMWOD, which is range of motion WOD, and you can try these free sample workouts. They're basically like CrossFit type yoga workouts, and I use them as recovery days, but I do know the older I get, the more my program will evolve to more yoga for recovery days. I cannot tell you how many bulls I've been stocking in on where I have done some stuff that was yoga, because you can't move very quick. And you have to get over that downfall, and you're on one foot holding your bow, and you're not trying to break a brush, and you don't want the elk to hear you. I do some crazy poses of yoga while elk hunting, but
that's when most people fall and elk's gone.
So your balance, stability, core strength, range of motion, mobility stuff. CrossFit should cover that. If you're gonna do CrossFit on your own, start small, build consistency in technique. Once you've had that for several weeks where you can do the movements and execute them well, and you're consistent, then you can ratchet up the intensity via more reps, less rest, more load, longer time domains. But CrossFit's for anybody. If you go to my gym, you'll see a Navy SEAL training alongside a great grandma. And they're doing the same workout, it just differs by degree, not kind. We're all doing the same type of workout, we just scale it to where you're at. And that's the beauty of CrossFit, is that it's, you know, you can refine things to where you're at, or what your limitations are fitness-wise, injuries, things like that. But yeah, no, you should do it. Even if hernia surgery and all, you're not going to be doing the heavy 1 rep max deadlifts. You're not going to be doing heavy front squats loading. And it depends on what kind of hernia surgery. You didn't state which kind. But really, truly, that should be healing up, and you should just provide enough stress to where your body can recover and come back stronger. I know a lot of the guys at your station are older, or 49 and older, and they're doing CrossFit, but they do it their own way, their version, which is a lot of body weight movements and a lot of stretching and just really getting the intensity piece.
You'd be surprised how tired you can get off a body weight movement too. I've been exhausted, pouring sweat from not even picking up a single weight, just doing
calisthenic based push-ups, burpees, sit-ups, air squats, you name it.
Yeah.
It's all about your effort and intensity. It doesn't have to be with weights, snatching, clean and jerking. That's not going to be you.
Just warm up and stretch first.
Definitely. All right, Randy, thanks for the question. All right. Here we go. Some good app questions. This guy wants to know, what kind of locating calls do you recommend using for elk? He uses a Primos Hoochie Mama, and he's bad at using mouth calls. Could we show him some tips on learning when is the best time to bugle or cow call? I didn't bring bugle tubes and stuff, but we can talk calling. We should talk calling.
Yeah.
We might have similar ideas or not, but let's locating elk.
Hoochie Mama's a good one. I don't use it if I get within 300 to 500 yards of an elk. It's just too loud. It's too in their face, I think. I've had some opportunities where I've been within a few hundred yards of an elk, and I even had it in my pocket, hit the Hoochie Mama, and had the elk turn around and leave. And I had no clue what it was. So I stopped using the Hoochie Mama, except for like out of the truck, you know, or a long distance away, nothing's bugling at you. I love a hyper lip, just a little hyper lip single or double. Obviously I love mouth reeds too. Mouth reeds are what I use the most. I was terrible at mouth reeds too. It's a learning curve. I think I probably sounded like a retarded mouse when I first started.
Yeah.
And it's about time. When you're driving in the car to work, 5 minutes, 20 minutes, just keep blowing it, keep moving it around your mouth, different pressures with your tongue, just keep trying. And sometimes there's a reed that you just can't blow, so just try a different one. Buy 5 reeds, get a pack. Just try every one of them and just spend 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 20 minutes a day driving to work in the car when you can't really do a whole lot else. Just practice them. I think they're the best. They sound better. I can pick out any guy in a Primos bugle that
for sure. Unfortunately,
it sounds too much like a tube. They have the same notes. Yeah, it works on elk sometimes. Obviously, people kill elk with stuff like that, but it's just too fluty for me. So
fluty. No duck fluties in the elk woods. You know,
just practice.
Locating elk can be tough. I still always start out with a cow call. So let's say it's just getting light. I'm on a ridge. I'm hoping there's elk down below me or nearby, but I don't know yet. I will start out with a single cow call. This year I didn't even pack any hyper lips. That's like a single reed mouth call. Primos makes a good one. So does Phelps. So does Bugling Bulls. They're loud. They're nice. I usually carry one. I just didn't carry one this year. I just did a diaphragm, a louder, more air. And that's where I start. If I don't hear anything, I'll wait 30 seconds, a minute. If I can be that patient, I'll throw out a single note locator bugle, and I'll just hit a high note and just let it kind of fade out. I'm not going to have a lot of buildup. There's going to be no grunts. It's just going to be a real high pitch. Hey, what's up? I'm here. Who's out there? And that seems to work really well. I've had a Hoochie Mamas, and I've lost many of them in Idaho in the woods. I just don't use those anymore. And then as far as actual calling in elk, probably most of the elk I've killed, I've called in with some sort of challenge bugle or cut them off. But I always end up killing elk with a diaphragm as the last sound that they hear. So I think it's critical to learn a diaphragm for the fact that many of the time you're going to kill elk, they're going to be in a lane where that's your only opportunity to shoot, and they will stop if they hear you cow call through your mouth, and you can't blow a call and have your bow pulled back at the same time. So it's extremely critical you at least know how to make a calf or a cow call with a diaphragm and stop that elk in that lane so you can execute your shot. I think Ryan said it best. Buy diaphragms from every manufacturer in the world, and it's 8 months away from September. You have all the time to figure out which one fits your mouth the best and which one you can make the sounds. Yeah. And there's so many resources out there, but no one starts out good that I know.
No, no, I sounded terrible when I first started.
All right, here's a cool question. What game cameras do you recommend? How far apart do you spread your cameras? I assume this is for elk. And how often before season do you check cameras? I think we have different ideas and opinions, but I'm excited to hear what Ryan has to say.
I got a bunch of cameras. So the only two kinds that I use are, I have a Bushnell HD and a Stealth Cam G42, I believe is what it is. I will not buy a camera if it doesn't have a steel box. So every camera that I have has a steel box, and I've still gotten them stolen in the steel box. I've had bolts into the tree. I've had a cable lock around it. I've had a lock on the steel case, and I've still had people steal them. So I'm moving towards a tree or a camera on a tree in the steel box, just like I do, and then I'm gonna start putting cameras either on a trail going in, just to try and catch people. I'm sick of, a camera's $200 and then a box is $40. And then your time,
I figured out the bill. It's $350 is what I think you should bill them. Because the camera, the case, the gas, the energy, and his time he's a firefighter. He gets paid pretty good by the hour. So you got to bill the time that it took you to get, and God knows Ryan's putting them in some ungodly places. So it's not right to steal. Your parents taught you not to steal. Why would you steal someone's game camera? You know what? If you find one of my cameras not locked, you can check the card. I don't care. Just put the card back. Leave the camera there. Yeah. It's not yours. Yeah. And anyway, so he uses a Bushnell. How far do you spread them out, and how often do you check them before the season or whatever?
I put a couple cameras over salt. Obviously I don't hunt over the salt, but I put a couple cameras over salt in the summertime when the bulls are in velvet. It's a good way just to kind of attract them to a certain area. Typically, once the bulls go hard antler, once they rub that velvet off, they vacate from the salt, and you can't find them anywhere near that unless a random cow comes walking through. I just don't get pictures over salt. So usually about August 15th, August 20th, I'm wherever I had a camera over salt, it's gone, and it's on some sort of water source, food source, or heavy trail. And really as far as putting them as far apart, I have a couple spots where I have cameras that are a half a mile from each other, and I have a couple spots where I have one camera in a whole canyon. So, it just kind of depends on the kind of the topography of your area, where the water is. If there's one main water source, there's really, if you're getting almost all the animals coming into one water source or one tank, there's really no sense in setting up on a trail that comes to the tank and the tank. So, it just depends on the location where you're at. Some places, like in North Idaho, you can have an elk that goes at 4,000 feet and an elk that only goes at 6,000 feet, just kind of moving down the canyon. So there's a lot of places that I have multiple cameras set at different elevations at different water sources throughout the season. And then whenever I'm hunting in there, I just go in there, check it, switch the batteries out. And I like to leave my cameras year round if possible. Yeah. If it's an area where I think there might be something to come by, I usually just leave it through the winter.
I got a couple cameras that I'm so mad that they're still in the mountains, because I know right now there's probably 5 more feet of snow over the top of them. I hope they make it, but I try to get all my cameras out, the backcountry ones, just because I don't think. But I'm with Ryan. I use Bushnell HD. I have some other ones, but dude, Bushnell HD has been so good. Yeah. I don't run video mode. I have in the past. I think, as from a biological standpoint, you can learn more about the species when you have it on a video mode. I think you're going to learn a ton more about their behavior, their posture. You might catch them bugling, understand what their bugle sounds like. So at the end of the day, it is better to probably run on video mode with a bigger card. So memory cards, I like 32 gig cards. I've spent a small fortune on. I have 20 something trail cameras, not sponsored. I buy them all. CamelLockbox.com, or I think that's the website I buy the cameras from, and I wait for specials, and I buy them in bulk, and I buy the lock boxes. I have off Amazon. I've purchased locks that all have the same key. So for years I had like 25 different locks and 25 different keys, and you can buy, I think I bought like 24 locks with one key of the same lock. That's good. I buy 8-inch basically bolt-in hardware lags, and I use a drill motor, and so it just speeds it up. And this year I'm going to get my cameras up higher and at an angle with some sort of tree step. I'm going to hike it in and get my cameras off the ground, just because I'm like Ryan. I finally had somebody steal a camera out of a box, and they had to work their ass off to do it, and it just made me mad. It wasn't the camera, it was the pictures that I really wanted to see.
Yeah.
And so I'm not going to have that happen again, and the chances are I can maybe catch somebody in the act. But as far as spreading them out, some areas I run like a trap line, where I'll do like literally 6 cameras in one little niche drainage, where I'm trying to figure out a real specific bull. But I think Ryan said it best. Minerals on the ground up until August-ish. When that velvet comes off, go get your cameras and move them to the new areas where you think they're going to rut, and get them on water or food sources or funnels, like saddles. And then you can kind of leave your cameras running and check them maybe even during hunting season. But most importantly, I love pulling cards after hunting season and kind of learn the biology of what's going on, who's who in the zoo. And I like to figure out how many wolves are in the area, cougars, other hunters. Trail cameras are the coolest.
Yeah.
I'm addicted.
Yeah, I love them.
Anything else on trail cameras?
I don't think so. Oh, the video mode. I put one camera on video mode and ended up catching a bull that Dan and I both were chasing for a number of years, bugling.
Yeah.
We hadn't really located exactly which bull he was by his bugle, and
Because it's so typical.
Yeah, it was so.
I could not tell them apart.
There was one bull in the area that kind of sounded like a dragon, and I was thinking that was the big bull, and then once I got a video of him bugling it, figured out it wasn't.
Did you ever kill that dragon bull?
No.
Do you think he's still alive?
As far as I know, yeah.
I never heard of him this year, but yeah. Okay, well, that's where Ryan and I, like, we just like cameras.
Yeah.
We've decided, and I've encouraged people to get cameras, but it is an addiction,
I have a cluster of them, so.
and it is expensive. I would say that AA battery lithiums, buy those on, like, I think 4 is like $10 at a grocery store or a hardware store. Dude, go to Amazon and I buy them like in 24 rolls, and I have so much faith that can run on a full year with a Bushnell. You don't have to change batteries. So buy a little bit more expensive batteries, but do it on Amazon and you'll be hooked up.
And if you have a Bushnell, do not put a 64 gig. 32 is the max. Do not put a 64 in. I put a 64 in one of mine and
took no pictures.
Took no pictures for 2 months. From September to October, I went in and checked it. 0 pictures. So
be careful. Another thing on Bushnells, like all the mistakes. You know how you can flip it to the middle?
Yeah.
So I always open my Bushnell, I flip it to the middle to see how many pictures I've gotten or images. Take that card out, put a new card in, close it. Don't close it, put it on. I cannot tell you how many times I have left my camera on standby and soaked.
Yeah.
There's a lot of amateur going on in there. So, all right, we're going to finish this up with a couple more questions. We'll call it a day. This is from Grant Reed. He wants to know, how far is too far when shooting an elk with a bow? I practice every day at 90 yards. I was thinking anything below 80 yards is in my range. What are your thoughts? Thanks. Keep up the great work. Thanks for the question, Grant. We'll let Ryan answer this one.
So I don't think there is a max yardage that I think it's what you're comfortable with. I do think that there gets to be a point where it becomes a little more unethical. Like you have an 80, 90, 100-yard shot. I'm not saying it's bad. I'm not saying it's wrong. I think there is an element of unethical that comes into play at 80 yards. I mean, it's what, 3 seconds for your arrow, 3 or 4 seconds for your arrow to get there. An elk can take many steps in 3 or 4 seconds. So I think it all depends on if you have an elk that's stuffed his head inside of a bush and he's sitting there feeding. He's not looking at you. He's not gonna walk straight into that bush. And you're comfortable, you can make that shot every time on a target, I think, yeah, go ahead and take the shot. I'm just not a proponent of people taking shots that they're not 100% comfortable with. Like, with a rifle, for me, if I'm comfortable at 1,000 yards on a target, if I'm comfortable on an elk-sized vitals target, I won't shoot an elk at 1,000 yards. I just think there's too many variables that come into play. I think, for me, it's about 300 yards under what I'm comfortable shooting with a rifle. So
we can say 30%. So your max effective range in practice, take adrenaline and all the other stuff, and shut that down shape it by 30%.
Yeah.
And that's kind of your effective range.
Yeah. But like when I killed this bull right here in 2014, like I shot that gun out to a mile. So I obviously wouldn't have shot that. Shooting a .338 Lapua, I wouldn't have shot that far at an elk, but I was comfortable at 12, 14, 1,600 yards. So that's why I was comfortable taking a 700-yard shot.
Yeah.
But now on a bow, if you're comfortable at 80, 90 yards, I'd say a 70-ish yard shot is probably what, as long as the animal stopped is presented in the proper position. And if you're comfortable making that shot, I think it's up to you. I think a front-on shot, I don't like them. I took one this year, but I think a front-on shot is like a 15-yard and under.
Yeah.
And there's just such a small hole. There's too many variables.
Definitely.
But that's my opinion. Obviously, it's by no means.
But that's what people want. They want to know your opinion. I'll ask you this, and I don't know if you know. I hope you know the number. How many elk have you killed with a bow?
I think I've killed 25 bulls, and I want to say that 15 of them are with a bow.
Okay, so 15 bulls with a bow. What is the furthest shot you've ever made on an elk with a bow?
35 yards? No, 40 yards.
40 yards.
This bull right here.
40 yards.
Farthest. Except for my very first bull, I was sitting in a tree stand over a wallow. I shot him at 12 yards. He ran to 40 yards. I shot him again, and he ran to 70, and I shot him twice at 70. But that's a bull that already has 2 arrows in it.
Yeah,
it doesn't matter if they're standing, I'm shooting. So
exactly. So you know that about elk. If you've shot them, keep shooting. That is ethical. You're trying to make a quick, humane kill. This dude's killed 25 bulls, 15 of them with the archery equipment. The first shot, 40 yards. Just get closer. That would be my advice. I have killed 20 elk with a bow in the last 10 years, and the furthest shot was 69 yards, quartering away, and then not a single shot is even close to that.
Yeah.
All the rest, I bet my average is between 20 and 30 yards, and that's where I want it. That's why I archery hunt, and so I would encourage people to get as close as possible. I'll give you an example. This year I killed 3 bulls. The bull I killed in Arizona, I shot at 10 yards. I love that shot.
Yeah.
The other 2 I called in Idaho, both were under like probably 20-yard shots, but both were quartering to slightly. The elk's coming in kind of slightly. And even just the angle that the elk at 15 yards, both those bulls did not just run 30 seconds and tip over. Both of them ran probably 150 yards, laid down. I watched them die. It took a lot longer. Yeah. And that's 15-yard shot, and that's still kind of broadside, just quartering too. Yeah. So it's about your shot angle, like Ryan mentioned. It's about your personal effective distance. I don't think if you're new and you've never killed an elk, I don't think you have any business really taking long shots until you learn more about the species and you learn more about yourself when you're under pressure. Just take it from 2 guys who killed a lot of elk between the 2 of us. Get close. That's what it's all about. The follow-up shots, that's where you practice those longer distances, in my opinion. So I agree with Ryan. Shave 30% off your max effective range in practice. And I'll go ahead and broadcast mine. I don't like to shoot elk over 60 yards. Now, I killed one at 69, but traditionally I don't have an archery setup, much more than 60 yards. I usually go like 20, 30, 40 pin with that bottom one being a slider. Yep. And I don't really practice broadheads out to 100. I shoot fixed broadheads. They fly good out to about 60 in my experience. Mm-hmm. And plus, anything beyond that, I think the animal can hear that arrow coming.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So it's a touchy subject. I don't really want to make it controversial.
This bull at 18 yards this year jumped my string.
18
yards.
18 yards.
If they're fixed on you, I didn't have to read my mouth. Stupid mistake. 18 yards. He was walking, and I just did with my voice.
Yeah.
And he stopped, and he absolutely
Still
pinned me.
flinched.
I was already at full draw, and when I let it go, he whirled hard.
Isn't that crazy?
And it's 18 yards, and you'd be surprised how fast they are, how quick they can turn on a dime.
So much can go wrong.
And I ended up, I still hit him good, but he was perfectly broadside, and when he whirled, like I was over here, this is the elk, and he ended up whirling towards me. So he ended up semi-facing me, so it was a quartering 2 shot. I still hit him behind the shoulder, but it ended up coming out
Yeah.
back.
So did you hit that other lung?
I only got this long on this side.
So he probably lived a little bit longer.
I
That's what happened to my bulls this year is one lung liver, they're dead.
Yeah.
But they just have to live a little bit longer and something, something could go wrong.
Yeah.
So, I mean, the subject's a pretty heavy subject.
Yeah.
I'm pretty passionate
Yeah.
about people basically staying within their effective range and take it from 2 guys that are pretty experienced hunting. Like, that is part of the thrill, is getting as close as possible. And if you only earn 1 shot opportunity, which is really hard to do, make it count. Make it a good high end, like use the numbers game and just figure out like what's going to give you the best odds to make the best shot. And for most people, it's going to be under 30 yards broadside with the animal stopped, not moving.
Yeah.
This is from Brooks. He wants to know, what suggestions would you make so that I can capitalize on my range time better use? Are there any fun games that you might suggest that I can play with my hunting buddies when we are at the range?
I love 3D shoots. So I always, when me and my buddies go shooting, I mean, we're doing like dollar bets or whatnot, you know, but
Yeah.
3D shoots are, I love 3D shoots. I do 3D shoots whenever I can, but, and you know, just make it fun. Whatever is fun for you guys, if it's sitting at the range, not doing a 3D shoot, just shooting a regular target, just whatever you can do to make it fun and interesting. Just to,
That's cool.
get more practice.
I like what he said. I think you can visualize, so perfect practice doesn't have to be at the range. You can visualize unlimited reps. And so before you go to bed, that's kind of how I fall asleep, is I like to visualize myself in several elk hunting scenarios, because this is what I do. So I'm weird, but I like to visualize what I'm going to do, how I'm going to cut that bull off, when I'm going to draw, what I'm going to focus on. That pin's going to float. I'm focused on a specific, the shot execution. That's unlimited reps. And that's something for the Navy SEALs. Like, they all do unlimited reps visualization. But then there's simulation, which is really important. What Ryan said, like, do your 3D courses, or when you're at the archery range, this would be a great question. I'm just curious. How many elk have you shot while your backpack's on?
Probably almost everyone. I
Okay.
think I've shot maybe 2 or 3 without a backpack on.
There you go. So, same for me. So, shooting at the range, be that guy who wears the boots, who wears maybe the top parka level or whatever coat you wear during hunting season. And if it's got a collar and it messes with you need to practice with all that backpack on and simulate perfect practice, those downhill, those uphill shots. And then if you can't do that, get in the daily reps, close up, just working on shot execution, blind belling. But 3D with a bet, like a wager between you and your buddy, that adds some pressure, that's good. Any pressure situation with a backpack on should help you. I don't know about games or whatever, but a serious bet would be all it would take for me. All right, great question. Thanks, Brooks. All right, this one's for Ryan. Other than Google Maps and calling the biologist for information on a unit we'll be in, is there still anything else I can do to prepare? Do you have any recommendations on basically the overall plan? The backstory is this guy's going into the Bob Marshall.
So
He's
I'm
done some
assuming this is
research.
an out-of-state
It's an out-of-state hunt for him. He's going to the Bob. You ever been to the Bob?
Mm-mm.
Okay. I haven't either, but I have an idea what it's all about. So, take us through, and we'll end on this video. Take us through kind of what you do. You drew this tag. You're going to this state. You've never been there before. What do? You call the biologist. You study Google Earth. Like, get as specific as possible with what Ryan Alltus does.
I obsess on maps. I probably look at maps more than the average hunter. I mean, I'm constantly, whenever I have free time, I'm on my computer looking at maps, looking at topography, looking at areas that are far away from roads. I try to get kind of this, just this area where in the center here, there's no roads for a few miles in any direction. So those are kind of the areas that I really like to focus on, just getting away. Like this year down in Arizona, I mean, it's rare that you see people that are truly getting off the roads, that are actually getting after it.
Nope,
and
not at all.
that are doing it. So I like to get off the roads. Anybody, I'm sick and tired of, hiking down a road or something, either having a 4-wheeler come by me or dropping off the road and having some guy turn his 4-wheeler off or slam the truck door and hit the bugle. So I'm constantly looking at maps. I'm always getting away from people, trying to just trying to get away, trying to be by myself. That's where you're going to get these bulls that are going to be of age, that are going to put the inches on. So first off, I always check maps. I definitely call the biologist. I know you said aside from those two things, I think if you can, summer scouting, that's, if you live close, if you're able to do it, I would definitely plan a summer scout trip. I would do a trip the first week before your season opens. If you can get there early, just spend a day or two or a week and just check the area out. Just walk around, look for sign, look for wallows, look for rubs, sheds, anything past from the previous hunting season, the previous rut. I think that's the three things that I do the most. Is, I mean, like New Mexico, what I did is I checked maps, I obsessed on maps, and I called the biologist. And that's when I got there. Literally the day before the hunt is when I showed up in New Mexico. It was dark when I got there. The next morning was opening day, so opening morning for me was scouting.
Yeah.
So sometimes you don't have any other option besides you get there the day before the hunt, and you have however many days you have allotted. That's your scouting trip.
And you know, Randy Newberg, I've mentioned before, like, he's a stud. He's got a great Elk Talk series on YouTube, look it up. But he takes the first day to kind of figure it out. You got to figure out what everything's looking like. He takes the second day to sort it out, and the third day he's hunting for real. Obviously he's bringing his weapon with him, but it should take about 3 days. And so what Ryan probably did there, and correct me if I'm wrong, is you went to one area, but you had already studied, obsessed over maps, and you probably had a baker's dozen areas that you wanted to check out. And what you're doing is you're just eliminating areas that you don't want to waste your time, and the sign's not there, or the pressure's too much. And if you're going to the Bob Marshall, that's a pretty big wilderness. Figure out the access points. Figure out, okay, where are most of the guys going to park their truck? Are they going to have horses? How are they going to access this wilderness? That's what you got to figure out, is where is the traffic of hunting pressure going to go, and then put yourself in the animal's position. How is that animal going to react to that pressure? That might be something that you do. As far as hunting out of state and contacting a biologist, that's very helpful, but I think nothing's going to top time behind a computer studying Google Earth and writing down and understanding your niche areas, marking waypoints on Google Earth and in your GPS or smartphone. And that brings up Onyx Maps. Do you use Onyx Maps?
Yep. I have it in my GPS and on my phone. So.
And Ryan's one of the most successful elk hunters I know, who does it blue collar style, who doesn't buy landowner tags. He doesn't, and there's nothing wrong with that, but just he doesn't. Ryan's killing these over-counter bull tags that he's using. Or
I go through the draw system just like anybody else can.
Yeah,
like this bull, this tag that I drew, anybody can draw it.
Yep, definitely.
There's no landowner tag. I went by myself. Just put in and got lucky, drew the tag,
and he studied his maps. He knew where to go. He eliminated areas, and I know he won't say he drove how many miles?
24 hours.
He drove 24 hours straight down, hunted his ass off, and then didn't like the hunting pressure. Drove another 30 miles.
Yeah, something like that. But it's mountain road, so it's it's 2 hours. But I spent 4 days hunting in the first area. Opening morning, I ended up seeing like 50 elk, and I'm like, oh, I'm going to be staying here for a while because it's good. And then that ended up being one herd that just basically moved out, and I spent 3 days just frustrated.
Yep.
Like, I would not come to New Mexico to be frustrated. I could stay home and be frustrated. So I ended up just packing up my stuff and just leaving. Obviously not the unit, but I just left about 30 miles and just picked out my next spot that I had in line that I knew I wanted to check out.
Yep.
Ended up working out for me. The next morning is actually when I ended up killing this bull. So
definitely. So there it is. Yeah. Don't be afraid to change your plan. But that's going to summarize the Q&A. I just wanted to kind of recap kind of some of the stuff we talked about. That appreciate Ryan taking the time. He's a busy guy. He's a wealth of knowledge. I'll try to get him on here again for Q&A. But if you have questions for us at Elkshape, send me an email. That's elkshape@gmail.com. Let us know what your questions are. And provide me an address. If I use your question, I'll send you some swag, a hat, a shirt, a decal. Again, this was all brought to you by Sitka Gear. Thanks for your partnership. And any parting words or advice for those guys out there watching right now that haven't had your level of success yet, they want to get to your level. Maybe they have killed an elk with a rifle, but they're switching to a bow, or maybe they just haven't killed their first elk yet. Like, what's that single most thing that you want to, like, your parting words for advice or encouragement for those that are hoping 2017 will be the year?
I think probably just not giving up. I've spent my fair share of time in places where I was frustrated, didn't see elk sign, didn't hear elk, and ended up towards, the last day of my hunt even killing elk. So it's just don't give up. You may be in an area where you feel like it's not so good, or if there's no elk sign, obviously don't stay there. Don't give up on that place. Go find something else, go somewhere else. But for the most part, if there's elk around, you're gonna run into them. It just takes time, which it kind of sucks for if you only have 2 days at a time. It's a lot harder to be successful. So if you can get the time off, take the time off. That's gonna help you out a lot. But just don't give up.
Don't give up.